First session today at this venue is Byomkesh in Bengal and beyond. As many of you know, we are celebrating 125th birth anniversary of Saradindu Bandyopadhyay. And what better way to start the celebrations at the Coal India Kolkata Literary Meet than with a session on his iconic Seeker of Truth, Byomkesh. We are very lucky to have with us two actors of two generations who have portrayed Byomkesh in television screens of India. One, of course, is the OG Byomkesh, as I call him, Rajit Kapur, who has come from Mumbai to be with us. Please give him a round of applause. We are also very happy to be joined by Gaurav Chakrabarty. Okay, I don't need to introduce him at all. You all know who he is. And we are also going to be joined shortly by Srijit Mukherji as soon as he finds his way to the stage. He is here, I believe, but I don't know where he is, but he will join us as soon as he comes. In conversation with them is another old friend of the Kolkata Literary Meet, Agnijit Sen. Ogni, as we all know him, is a very popular RJ and content creator. I welcome them onto stage and hand over the reins of this session to Ogni.
Good afternoon, everybody. So let me start with a few lines of the first Byomkesh story, not in chronological order, but the first story by how we're introduced to the world of Byomkesh. So Byomkesh and Ajit, they go to Byomkesh's place after the case is solved. Onukul Babu is successfully put behind bars. And then Ajit goes up the stairs along with Byomkesh. And Ajit looks at the plate which says, Byomkesh Bokshi Shottanishi. Then Ajit turns around and asks Byomkesh, what is this thing all about, Shottanishi? Then Byomkesh says, I don't like the word detective. And then in Bengali he says, Goinda Shabdota Aro Kharap, which translates in English as, the word Goinda is worse. So I prefer to call myself Shottanishi, somebody who is in search of the truth, somebody who seeks the truth. And for a lot of us who have grown up with, not with YouTube, but with television primarily, the one person we always turn to when we heard the name Byomkesh, the one person who was seeking the truth of Byomkesh Bokshi on screen, that is the OG Byomkesh, Rajit Kapur. Please give him a huge round of applause. We've come to hear his stories, listen to his anecdotes, and joining Rajit Kapur is another fanboy of Rajit Kapur. So let me first tell you, I'm a fanboy of this session, and this was a confession made by another Byomkesh on television. And now, let me just shrug my collar a little bit and say Byomkesh of Sunday Suspense as well. 3 stories of Sunday Suspense, and each has crossed 1 million, by the way. So yeah. So Byomkesh of Sunday Suspense and the television Byomkesh, Gaurav Chakrabarty. Please give him a huge round of applause. And we will be joined by Srijit Mukherji shortly, who made Durga Rahasya for Hoichoi. So he will obviously have a lot of anecdotes to share. So let's turn to the OG Byomkesh and let's hear your stories first. So how did this all happen? Rajit Kapur playing Byomkesh Bokshi on screen, Basu Chatterjee coming to you with the script to screen transformation. And I must say, on behalf of the audience, I've never ever felt that a person who is not Bengali by birth is essaying the role of Byomkesh Bokshi on television. Am I right, audience?
I think most of Bengal still thinks that I'm Bengali because they start speaking to me in Bangla. I can understand Bangla, but kichu kichu jani. Bolte pari na, bujhte pari. I think the credit would probably go to a series that I did much earlier called Yugantar, where I played Michael Madhusudhan Dutt. And Srijit Sen, who was, still consider him is, legendary screenplay writer who's worked in close proximity with Bimal Roy. He was instrumental in the structuring and the screenplay of Yugantar, and he suggested my name to Basuda, who was casting for Byomkesh. And I think Basuda saw clippings of Michael Madhusudhan Dutt and he called me. But he was prepared because all 33 stories had already been translated by him into Hindi. So I think I barely spoke to him for 5 minutes, and then he said, I will give you all 33 stories together and read it. He said, I've done the translation and my Hindi is not so good, so please correct it as you go along, but don't ask me too many questions on the set. And it was all decided in a matter of 10 minutes, and I didn't know what hit me at that time. I was on. So much later, I got to know that my very senior actor, K.K. Raina, is playing my junior, Ajit, and I told him that you are my senior actor, so I think you should play Byomkesh and I'll play Ajit. So I'll just go and tell Basuda. And he shouted at me and he said, you are getting the chance of a lifetime. Just keep quiet and do your job. Don't argue too much. This is yours to play, and I'm very happy playing second fiddle to you. Well, that's the humility of the man. And yeah, we did it in 2 parts, and first 13 episodes and then followed by the balance 20 episodes. But we did not shoot episodically. We shot it like a film. It was shot location-wise. So the first 1 month, I was only doing Byomkesh's house scenes, you know. And my script is the only script that had all the continuity written down. So when much later we came to Kolkata just to do the entries and exits of going in and coming out of various streets and various doors, then my script was the Bible to check about which jacket and which kurta I was wearing, because I had written every single detail down on my script. And here we have our great Bengal factory. Srijita, please give him a big hand.
We are speaking about Shrottanneshon, and Srijit has just made a film which is called Shotti Bole Shotti Kichu Nei, so I don't know. So we'll hear from Srijit as well. But sir, please continue. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it happened so fast that there was not that much of time to think. So KK Raina and me, we would discuss the scenes and the stories amongst us, you know, make changes. And Basuda was quite open to it, because he had made it very clear, if you have any questions, you ask me before, not while we are shooting, because my mind is full of 20 other things at that time. Don't question me about things, you know, on the set. You do your homework, he would say. Do your homework and come. Don't ask me too many questions. So he left a lot to us to do. I have to give him that credit.
And we will hear more from Rajit Kapur about his portrayal of the iconic character on screen. Let's go to Gaurav Chakrabarty now. So first, let me ask you a fanboy question. So the portrayal of Rajit Kapur as Byomkesh, did that inspire you while you were, about to portray Byomkesh on television? And what are the traits that you took from his portrayal of Byomkesh on screen?
100%. So the thing is, by the time I was playing Byomkesh, this is sometime in the 2010s. I played Byomkesh in 2013, 14, I think. And by that time, I had massive shoes to fill. There had been some great actors before me who had already played the role. And whenever I read Byomkesh, the face that I imagined was of Sir. That's because that's the first Byomkesh I ever saw. I was introduced to Byomkesh with Basu Chatterjee's series. And I saw that even before I saw Chidiya Khana, which had actually come, chronologically it had come before. But I had seen it later. And I had loved the television series on Doordarshan so much, and I had loved Sir so much, that his portrayal was somehow, I think it was ingrained in my head. And when I got the opportunity, I made it a point not to go back and watch it, because then it would become sort of trying to mimic his performance or trying to imitate him. I didn't want to do that. But the one thing that I took from his performance was that, firstly, it was so true to the text, and the fact that Byomkesh was not larger than life. It is very clearly mentioned in the book that Ajit says that Byomkesh ke dekhle mone hoy na or moddhe mane o অসাধারণ কেউ, কিন্তু এমন পরিস্থিতির সম্মুখীন হলে ওর মধ্যে থেকে অসাধারণ কিছু বেরিয়ে আসে, which means that he looks very ordinary, but he has the capacity to do extraordinary things. So that is what I kept in mind when I portrayed the character, and fortunately my director also allowed me to do that. But then yes, his portrayal was massively there in my head.
So সেই খারাপ জোকটা আগে বলি, যেটা হয়তো সেশনের শেষেই বলতাম, ফেলুদার ছেলে ব্যোমকেশ, সেই একটা খারাপ জোক, এটা আমরা বহু বছর ধরে বলছি. We've been saying this PJ for over and over again, that Feluda's son is Byomkesh. So because Srijit
I can't answer that.
Plays Feluda on screen. That is something. We have a whole bunch of stories on
Double
Satyabati.
Satyabati.
Yes, double Satyabati. We have a whole bunch of stories on Satyabati that we will ask Rajit Kapur and Gaurav very shortly. Before making Durga Rahasya Srijit, I remember you gave me an interview and you very clearly said that if I have to make one Byomkesh ever, it will be Durga Rahasya, Kileka Rahasya. So you will make that you'll make that series. So the thing that two questions that I wanted to ask you. One, why is that text always been your favorite? And number two, Gaurav mentioned something very interesting, that he's an extraordinary man, but he doesn't look like an extraordinary man. And Byomkesh has often been portrayed as, extremely heroic in our films with all this background music and with all these cameras and everything. So how did you go about portraying Anirban Bhattacharya as Byomkesh in your series Durga Rahasya? Because that series got a lot of eyeballs, got a lot of appreciation. So over to you, your interpretation of Byomkesh.
So, first of all, like Gaurav also, I think my go-to visual and character reference for Byomkesh was always this man. Because though I got introduced to Byomkesh via text, through literature, and then I watched Bashuda's series. And but what came through, and very strangely, in a language which was not Bengali, a strange Bangaliana. Bangaliana expressed to Hindi is a very difficult thing to achieve, because there are certain nuances, there are certain terms, there are certain phrases which are quintessentially Bengali. To actually translate that, so I have often done this exercise. I've closed my eyes, I try to imagine the TV serial. They're speaking in Hindi, but I'm hearing Bangla. Right. That is the level of how should I put it? The coming together of the actor and the character to that extent. He embraces the milieu to that extent that even a language which is not originally from that milieu, that sounds like my mother tongue. So he made it so Bengali. And another thing is this Rajit's very, very quiet, understated charm and sparkling intelligence, All these are traits which Byomkesh, which characterizes Byomkesh. So that came through brilliantly, I thought. Which is why even after, Rajit, whenever there was a Byomkesh adaptation, I personally struggled, coming to terms with it. Eventually I did, like you come to terms with Robert Downey after Jeremy Brett and Benedict. Like you come to terms with new interpretations. It's just that it takes a bit of time. So, you change, your childhood is no more there. The world around you changes. The definition of heroism changes, the definition of truth. It's a post-truth world. So in that new setup, your interpretation of iconic characters also change. So that's fine. But as they call OG, the OG Byomkesh. AG. So Rajit is my OG Byomkesh as well. And coming to Durga Rahasya, I think it's just because of the cinematic potential of the story. It's set like a magnum opus in a huge canvas. And in fact, I have the chance of doing both. Someone doesn't like me. I mean, a lot of people don't like me, but someone in the sound console doesn't like me.
No, Srijit is actually very omaic when he speaks.
Yeah. So, so coming back to Kileka Rahasya or Durga Rahasya, I actually got the chance to direct Byomkesh as early as 2013.
Okay.
Because after Rituda passed away, all the rights which were there with SVF, they were first offered to me. But I had then, by the time, already committed to Kaka Babu. So I said that let me concentrate on one franchisee.
So that's great. So Srijit Mukherji, what does he do after this? He fits in Rajit Kapur in his Kaka Babu world. So that's a very good thing to do.
Yes. So you have the best of both worlds.
Yes,
right. So hence then the films actually Orindamda took them up, and Onjunda also did a couple. But I said I'll not enter the Byomkesh universe. I'll stick to Kaka Babu. There was also this incentive of getting your passport stamped because Kakababu travels around the world. Byomkesh remains in India, like Feluda. So after all those, adventures in Egypt, and then, in the Alps, and then in Serengeti, Masai Mara actually. So after all those adventures, I came back, Bhumono Bromia Sheshe. And then I said, chalo, let's now settle out with Feluda. So then I had a go at Feluda and finish Feluda. Then I did a bit of, Bengalification of Sherlock Holmes in Shekhar Home. So after that, when everything was done, I said, now, this one last wish which remains is one story of Byomkesh, which is Durga Rosha, and that is how, Durga Rosha happened. And Anirban Bhattacharya had already done a lot of Byomkesh for Hoichoi. So his portrayal was pretty larger than life, unlike Rajit's. So I toned him down. I made him come down from the very larger than life, kind of a lens which he was being given. And I placed it somewhere between Rajit and, let's say, Anirban in Hoichoi or Abir, or even Sushant, Sushant's flamboyant Byomkesh, So for me, Byomkesh is that person who's not, that action-oriented, that flamboyant. It's actually, the correct analogy will be Robert Downey and, Jeremy Brett.
So Byomkesh তোমার কাছে বিরিয়ানি নয় ডাল ভাত?
আমার কাছে Byomkesh বিরিয়ানিও নয়, ডাল ভাতও নয়, আমার কাছে Byomkesh pork fried rice.
The charm of Srijit Mukherji, only he can say Byomkesh is my pork fried rice. That's some analogy that is going to be pretty difficult to match. The one thing Srijit has said, Rajit sir, which I also wanted to ask you, that you inculcated this, this Bengali charm on screen, and also a lot of habits, in walking and talking. And let me tell you this on stage. First, let me say it in Bangla, then I'll say it in English. আমি কোনো একজন অবাঙালিকে এত ভালো ধুতি সামলাতে কোনোদিন দেখিনি. So I haven't seen a person who is not Bengali by birth tackle the dhuti so efficiently. So what is that story all about? Do you have an interesting story about this?
I learned how to tie the dhoti during Byomkesh because the costume fellow didn't know how to do it properly. So I decided that I better learn myself. And today, because of Byomkesh, I can tie the dhoti blindfolded.
That is the understated, that's exactly what Srijit said right now, the understated charm of Mr. Bakshi. What was Basu Chatterjee's reaction to all of this? The costume guy, not up to the mark and you're tying the dhoti.
No, he was quite indifferent. He said, you just do it the way you want. So he gave me a lot of freedom with that. But the important thing was, just to pick up from what both of them said, it's the extraordinary mind of the ordinary man. That is really the line that defines him. And he said that this is a great mind. He thinks far ahead of anybody else. I want that to come across. So there were just these pointers, He's a very simple guy, kurta, dhoti clad, kind of a human being. He's your man who could be your next door neighbor. These were the kind of pointers that were given to me. And then he allowed me to, gave me enough freedom to build on that. This is the image, he says, that I want, and then you do what you want. If you kind of step out of line, I will tell you,
And how was that whole ambience? That shooting experience, a lot of scenes happening indoors, as you said, and then you people went out.
Most of it was shot in Mumbai. People think that we shot in Bengal. We shot here for 7 days. One day with Robinda, because there was one episode. And my greatest honor really was episode 3, where I shot with Utpalda, the great Utpaldat. And that was, he is another person like Mr. Shyam Benegal, who I can say was the walking encyclopedia. He's sitting with poetry books, Shakespeare. And I had a wonderful time that one day I shot with him. And his laugh, that full-throated laugh, it still rings in my ears. And I am so grateful that I had the opportunity to work with this man.
So let me give you another interesting anecdote. A lot of people actually know it's not an anecdote. It's such a beautiful legacy that Rajit sir just mentioned. So when we did this story on audiobook, one of our radio veterans, Jagannath Bosu, played the role of Sir Digindra Narayan, which Utpal Datta had played on TV. So it was a fantastic experience for all of us. Coming to you, Gaurav, huge shoes to fill, as you said. And you know, the extraordinary charm of an ordinary man. What was the pressure all about? And talk us through the mind of Byomkesh. What was your homework? How nervous you were? And finally, how did you manage to cope up with the television Byomkesh?
Oh, I was extremely nervous. So the thing is, the one thing that you should do when you're playing an iconic character like this, you should not approach it like an iconic character. You should approach it like just another role that you're playing. Because otherwise, it weighs down on you. And that's not the ideal situation to be in, which is what I was in when I started off. And I went to my father. Fortunately, he's a senior actor. And he also had very big shoes to fill when he started playing Feluda. So I went and asked him, what did you do? The first thing he said is, don't go back and watch the whatever is there in your head, don't go back and watch it. And the other thing is, play it normally, play it like any other role, otherwise you won't be able to do it. That really helped me. And I did a lot of research, as I always tend to do with anything that I take up. I read all the stories, I read anything that was there to be read about Byomkesh, anywhere on the internet, in any book, anywhere. I did all of that, and I
didn't read anything. I was told not to read anything that would influence me.
I think that would have been the right thing to do. I just went overboard with the homework, I think. And then once I started, after the first few days, I got the hang of it. And as for the mindset of Byomkesh, I think what Mr. Kapur just said, the extraordinary mind of the man, that is what had to be brought out without him being too superhero-ish. So that is what I tried to do. And fortunately, I had really, really talented people guiding me throughout. And the one thing that I regret is the fact that we were doing it on television. There were certain limitations that we had. Like, the one limitation that I have the honor of being the only Byomkesh who's never smoked on screen.
Oh, really?
Yes, because television.
Oh, wow.
Television did
and
not.
I'm a non-smoker and I was made to smoke. But I think we were just talking backstage, and the common thing that we both share is that we both played Byomkesh at 26 and a half, kind of.
Yes.
And that is a strange coincidence.
And both of us started playing Byomkesh at 26. We stopped playing Byomkesh at 27. So that's a weird coincidence. And I think I was a little too young. I actually didn't look 26 when I played Byomkesh. I looked much younger. I think now would have been a better time. But then you never know when these things happen. And also, the limitation that we had is that each story had to be done in 3 episodes. And they were all hour-long episodes. So that was... And there were some stories which went on for 6 episodes. There were some which went on for 9 episodes. And so what happened is, when you're stretching a Byomkesh story for 9 hours, you tend to drag it. So that is one regret that I have going back. And when I watch it, I don't try to watch it too often. But when by chance, if I get to see something, I realize that it shows. Those things show. The ideal way to do it would have been the way it was done on Doordarshan or the way it was done on Hoichoi. That's the ideal way, the ideal duration. So that is one limitation that we had, which I feel terrible about still.
So Srijit, let's leave the stage to these two Byomkesh, let them converse among themselves, and let us sit in the audience and see both of them converse. It would be a lovely, lovely conversation. But what you just said, Gaurav, Srijit, how difficult is it to write a Byomkesh screenplay? Because, you know, every text, every word of that text, every syllable of that text is so crucial to the story. And you know how genius Saradindu Bandyopadhyay was in terms of portraying Byomkesh, and in latter part of Byomkesh, in terms of portraying other characters. Devashish Deepa, for example. Shojarur Kata was the name of the story. And you know, he's actually weaving a socioscape. You tend to understand that, and Byomkesh is an observer. But at the same time, the series is based on Byomkesh, so you have to weave Byomkesh somewhere. So how difficult is it for the screenplay writer Srijit Mukherji to adopt Byomkesh?
Much easier, actually. It's more difficult to do Feluda, because in Feluda, the socioscape is not, at least the socio-political scape is not that present, you know, because Ray wrote it mainly for young adults. So a lot of the politics, a lot of the societal, happenings and going ons, they were kind of avoided. But not so with Byomkesh, which is good for us because, like when I was adapting Peluda for Hoichoi, I had to bring in the political, socio-political scenario, be it Kashmir or be it Darjeeling, wherever I placed it. In case of Byomkesh, throughout Byomkesh, you hear stories of Hindu-Muslim riots.
The references are there, very subtle.
Yeah, references are there.
One mention of China, one mention of Darjeeling, one mention of Gorkha land, and you need to pick it up.
And in fact, in some stories, it's not even subtle, because in some stories, you have Byomkesh dealing with arms dealers who deal in the black market. Yes, and you understand that, there is a turbulent social thing going on. And, there are Hindu-Muslim riots, which are being referred to, the 47 riots, the 60 riots. So, it gives you a lot of chance to historically position the thriller. So that it's not only the internal tension of the case, it's also the external tension of whatever is happening in that locality. This I used in Durga Rahasya, where I brought in the Naxalite movement. So the Naxalite movement came in, and for that I had to anachronistically push the story, I think, by 5 to 7 years. When it was possibly in early 60s, I pushed it to late 60s. But that really helped, because then continuously, again, the duration is a very important thing. One interesting thing to, fight that monotony is to actually pepper the narrative with socio-political tension all around, so that you have more characters to play with, you have more dramatic points to play with, plot points, plot twists, red herrings, suspects. You can create more suspects and increase the suspect pool, so that the audience gets even more intrigued. This one did it, or that one did it, or this.
That's what Divakar did with the film. The political context was, kind of highlighted.
Heightened, absolutely. So actually, it's easier to write a screenplay. In any case, Saradindu Babu is incredibly visual.
He was a screenplay writer.
He was a screenplay writer. So his descriptions, in Byomkesh, they are almost like instructions to the production designer. Okay, put this over here, put there. The costume designer comes, make her wear this, make him wear this. So, almost instructions, So they're so descriptive and they're so visual, and hence it's actually much easier.
Duration is a very important thing, Rajit sir. You had a very interesting anecdote about an 18 minutes episode. So would you like to share it with the audience?
Well, the only story that was given the credit of 2 episodes was the last one, the Chiriyaghar.
Yes.
Because it was rather long. And I can't remember which story we were falling short for about almost 5 to 6 minutes. And Basuda, the middle of the day at lunchtime, sat KK Rana and myself down and said, now you guys have to help me, because we don't have enough length. So we have to add 6-7 minutes. And we were trying to then figure out which scenes. And then I think there was some scene where all the suspects are collected together and Byomkesh is addressing them. And we improvised that and gave each one of them a chance to say something. And I think that entire moment, which was meant to be 5 minutes, went on to 12 minutes. That's how we added length to that episode.
Must have taken a lot of editing. But it's completely worth it to see Rajit Kapur and KK Rana stretch an episode. It would have been a fantastic delight for any director. So let's come to another very important aspect of Byomkesh, all 3 of you, that is Satyabati. She is a very, very important part of Byomkesh, and absolutely right, Benudar Bouma. So that is the detective blood runs in Gaurav Chakrabarty's family, actually. But Indrani Chakrabarty is seated there, I can see her. So she once told me a very interesting anecdote. She's the project director for our audiobook series, Sunday Suspense. She once told me something very interesting. She said in Vansh Ka Khoon at the end, Byomkesh lets the criminal go. The criminal, Ushapati Babu comes and says that me and my wife have lived in 2 separate rooms, and it was all because of Shottokam. Now he's dead. We want to start life afresh, and please, please don't put us behind bars. And Byomkesh says that you have committed a crime, but you have more than made up for it. So I'm letting you free. So Indranidhi said if Byomkesh was not married, probably he would not have taken this decision to let Ushapati go. And that struck me. Thank you, Indranidhi, for a brilliant insight. And that stayed with me for a long, long time. The impact. And Byomkesh is probably one of the very few happily married detectives. In Sherlock Holmes, you have an Irene Adler. In Feluda, wife is a joke. And, in Hercule Poirot as well, you don't see
Feluda
much.
is more like L&T.
Yes.
Staring at wife on Sundays is frowned upon.
Yes, absolutely. So Byomkesh is very happily married. So, sir, the impact of Satyabati in Byomkesh and your experience while shooting with Satyabati on set, you must tell this.
What I can tell you is Sukanya Kulkarni, who played my wife, she had a huge issue about the whole thing. And so one day there was a huge argument on the set and she was very upset. She said, Basudha, why am I always bringing chai and taking the cup away? I always have a cup of tea in my hand. Why? Why am I not part of the stories and helping them solve and all? He says, because I've not written them. I'm not the original writer. That is how he has written it. But this used to upset her terribly. So in one or two episodes, she decided to sit there on the couch with Ajit Da, listening to what I had to say, just to make her feel part of it.
That's a lovely anecdote. Sir?
And same scenario on
same
our
scenario?
set.
So your wife has played Satyabati with you and then with another actor. So
Yes.
who do you think your wife did a better job with as Satyabati?
If you ask me, I'll be very honest. I think Ridhima has better chemistry with Anirban than she has with me. It's the
You want to say
genuine
something?
truth.
Srijit?
It's a long chapter when it comes to Ridhima and Satyabati and my casting Shohini as Satyabati, who was Satyabati with Abir. So it's a very
Mukherji multiverse kind of a thing.
no. First of all, the Satyabati Byomkesh universe in Bengal, it's a very profligate and a promiscuous universe.
Very incestuous.
Yeah, incestuous. So his real life Satyabati is Satyabati with Anirban, who also had Satyabati as Shohini, who also had Abir as Byomkesh. So it's a very close-knit family.
So we are renaming the session. We are calling it Inception. Satyabati within a Satyabati within a Satyabati.
Yeah. So when I was casting for Durga Rahasya, and I obviously cast Anirban as Byomkesh, I told Ridhima that I'll not be able to cast you as Satyabati. And the reason that I gave her is for the simple a couple of lines in Ortham Anartham, where Saradindu describes Satyabati and the complexion.
Shamla.
Shamla. So I told Ridhima, from no angle, from any lens, from whatever color correction I do at Edit FX with Debu, I cannot make you look Shamla. I have to do VFX. Only computer graphic effects can make you look Shamla. And we don't have that kind of a budget. So your complexion came, in the way of your casting as Satyabati. She was actually quite upset, and I understand that because she had terrific chemistry with Anirban. And both of them, they were like a house on fire on Hoichoi.
What about him?
Who?
Gaurav da?
Acha.
I've already admitted defeat.
Her real life Byomkesh, you mean?
No, I'm talking about the Byomkesh Satyabati ones. Don't dodge the question.
No, but as he said, I genuinely feel Ridhima has crackling chemistry with Anirban, and I was very, very tempted to cast them together. But then I am a stickler for, the original in the physical casting aspect. Why I'm saying the physical casting aspect is because I address this issue of the woman just, bringing the tea and bringing back. Shohini actually verbalizes this angst in Durga Rahasya. And Shohini, like a true blue Bengali woman, terrifies her husband. And her husband, being the, Byomkesh and all that, is like this when, Satyabati is around. And Ajit, brilliantly played by Rahul, I think, they have this thing that they're both terrified of Satyabati, and especially because Satyabati now is not keeping too well because she's pregnant. So her mood swings have gone up, and both of them are, running helter-skelter when she's in her bad moods. So what happened in Durga Rahasya is that she was, as usual, Saradindu Babu style, she was dispatched to Baper Badi to give birth to Khokha.
সুকুমারের কাছে চলিয়া যাও, পত্র
Yes,
লিখিয়ে দিলাম,
yes.
হ্যাঁ।
So in my Durga Rahasya, she refuses to go. She says that you will go on holiday and I will go to my Babarbari and get bored. Not happening. I'm coming with you. And Byomkesh is, at wits end trying to understand, no, you're not doing well, pregnancy, this, that. And then she says something very, that's amongst the lines which I write, that's look, we've given birth while crossing borders. Don't teach the generation of our women how to handle pregnancy.
Lovely line.
So this, again, the socio-political thing also comes through, and of course the woman comes through. And then she's there and she reaches the Kila also.
Yes, she walks up that stairs.
She walks up the stairs,
Yes.
reaches that Kila, and then the character that Anusha played,
Yes.
So, and she also kind of looks upon very suspiciously between the relationship between Byomkesh and the girl, because the girl calls everyone apni, only Byomkesh tumi, and that is something she kind of creates hell for him.
Yes,
So
that's true.
see that extraordinary in an ordinary kind of a template, the ordinariness comes here. That even the mighty Byomkesh scared of the frown on Satyabati's face. So
And the line that I love in Orthomonotham, Srijit da, in the very end, I have to say this in Bengali only, in this very end, Byomkesh খুব গম্ভীর গলায় অজিতকে বলে যে সত্য অন্বেষণ আমি অল্প দিন থেকেই আরম্ভ করেছি। তখন অজিত বলে যে সত্যবতী, এতদিন ধরে এই মহাসত্যটি অন্বেষণ করা হচ্ছে বুঝি ব্যোমকেশ। and then Byomkesh says that you are older than me, অর্থাৎ সম্পর্কে তার ভাসুর কথাটা যেন মনে থাকে। and Rajit sir, not only Byomkesh Satyabati, the chemistry between Satyabati and Ajit is so beautiful. That is so understated. That is actually very understated in the Byomkesh stories. Gaurav, the same question to you once Rajit sir is done with this.
I think that was just there because we had a certain comfort level between the three of us. And it's all in the looks. There are no lines, there are no dialogues. It's all in the exchange of looks, because when sometimes Byomkesh is talking and sometimes they just can't follow because he's on another level. So you have this kind of an understanding between the two of them that now he's on another level. We can't reach him until he explains. So that was very consciously brought out in when we worked on it.
And
Yes,
I think
Gaurav.
they share a beautiful relationship. I think they have a relationship which is, I think, it does not require Byomkesh to have a relationship that they have. As in, their relationship is...
Beautifully said, yes.
It is... even if Byomkesh did not exist in their lives, their relationship would be something worth mentioning, that sort of a thing. And it is so beautiful, it's so serene, and the way they get together, and sometimes they mock Byomkesh also at times. They gang up against him, and the entire thing. And we've seen these sort of relationships growing up. I've seen my mother have a best friend who is like Ajit, who's also friends with my father. So these are relationships which I think in every Bengali household has seen, and that is portrayed so beautifully in the writing and in all the adaptations. I think that relationship it just brings a lot of happiness to the viewer when he watches it or reads it, I think.
Yes, Srijit, you want to add something?
yes, I wanted to add a play actually. It's a play called Checkmate. My first production in Kolkata when I was still doing plays, not moved to theatre. It was in 2009. So taking this cue, this relationship between
Satyabati and
Ajit. So actually Ajit in the play, which was set chronologically just after Iron Biscuit, Lohar Biscuit, or just in terms of chronology.
Right.
I wrote it as a non-canonical last case of Byomkesh, where Ajit is the murderer, and Byomkesh cracks that, and in that final climax, he gives the choice to Ajit, and they have.
আপনার মতিগতি তো ভালো বুঝছি না মশাই।
They have a soul-stirring conversation, and one of the motives for Ajit's committing the murder was avenge Shotto. So something to do with Shotto's past and everything. So it's a very interesting play. And
I think you have given a brilliant idea to the next generation directors. If they want to carry on the Byomkesh legacy, probably this one
no,
offshoot
so
can be
I
done.
actually wanted to do it as a film also. After Bidai Byomkesh happened, I contacted the rights holders and I said that there is a non-canonical take on Byomkesh where Ajit is the murderer. So it's a very similar expression like what I saw in your face. I mean, I couldn't see the expression over the phone, but I could imagine. And they said, Dada, mane Ajit khunita to
Bangali ঠিক একটু চাপ হয়ে যাচ্ছে।
একটু মুশকিল। But I tried to reason saying that কেন মানে ব্যোমকেশের যে বাকি খুনিরা তারা সবাই তো বাঙালি। মানে তাদের তো
দারুণ
অবাঙালি খুনি তো সেরকম নেই আর কি। So I think anyone is capable of murdering if given the
Yes.
sufficient motive and opportunity. And someone who's been Byomkesh's best friend for so many years, I mean, he will even get away with it because he will know what not to do, right?
True.
So,
And
yeah.
another thing I wanted to ask you, Gaurav, we'll end the session shortly. How much time do we have? Can somebody tell me from the... We have time, right? Gaurav, so you finished playing Byomkesh at 27. After all these years, you return to the audiobook, Sunday Suspense. You play Byomkesh on audio. How was that experience all about? And did your interpretation or perception about Byomkesh Bokshi change over these years?
I've always had big shoes to fill, you know. Whenever I've tried to play Byomkesh, there have always been big shoes to fill. So the thing is, when Mirchi gave me the opportunity to play Byomkesh again, I was excited, and I genuinely thought that I am at a stage in my life where I am better equipped to play Byomkesh. And but then again, taking on a role which has been made popular by someone like Mir Afsar Ali, it is massive shoes to fill. And there were a lot of naysayers, as there should be, because when there's someone leaving a character and someone new coming in, there's bound to be some sort of a...
So against all these naysayers, there's one Indrani Chakrabarty that is sitting in the crowd.
Yes, Indranidhi, I'll have to take her name. Indranidhi was very sure that I could do it. And I was sure I could do it. And fortunately, the audience liked my portrayal. And I think I've rediscovered Byomkesh at 10 years later. There's a different kind of a realization that has come. There's a slight difference in the way I portray him. And also doing it for the audio medium, I think it is very different because the audience can't see you. So anything that you do, it has to be portrayed through your voice. And for that, I'll have to thank you as well. I'll have to thank Deep. I'll have to thank Indranidhi. But then I'm glad that the audience
And you
liked
must
it.
thank Richard.
Of course, Richard, of course, for the wonderful, wonderful soundscape. And so it's been a wonderful opportunity. Not many people have got the opportunity to play the same character twice over such a long period of time. And I feel grateful and honored.
So Sunday Suspense is the only medium where you can hear Shobboshaji Chakrabarty playing Feluda and Gaurav Chakrabarty playing Byomkesh. So that is one thing. And
Massive honor.
Yes, and let me give you one small stat that actually tells you, Srijit, that how popular Byomkesh is even today. You've realized it yourself as well while you were making that series. The Byomkesh playlist on the YouTube channel, on our YouTube channel, has 54 million views. The Byomkesh playlist. It's the second highest viewed playlist. Can you guess the first one? Of course, it's Feluda with 62 million. So these two characters, they never really leave us. Rajit sir, if you were to play Byomkesh today again, would anything change about your portrayal now that time has passed a lot more?
I don't know. I've never thought about it. But a few years ago, I did a special appearance in a series called Tripling, where they, without naming him as Byomkesh, suddenly the three main protagonists find an out-of-work Byomkesh at the salon on the street. So, young Sumit Vyas, who is an actor but is also a writer, asked me that, will you do this cameo? So I said, okay, write it, give it to me, and let's see what shades we can bring in. So that was really the only attempt of maybe what he would have been like 20 years later than what was written. But other than that, no, I think it's time for the next generations to take it on like how he has done. And 10 years from now, there'll be so many more Byomkeshes.
And Gaurav Chakrabarty now has a son. Can he play Byomkesh 20 years
Yes,
after
20
this?
years from now, his son will be playing Byomkesh. What are you saying? Of course.
God only knows. What if he doesn't want to get into this field?
What if-
Yes,
never
that's
know.
also true. You
Can't
never
force
know.
it on him.
We're going the phantom way, you know.
Yes, absolutely. So this is more or less about Saradindu at 125, Byomkesh in Bengal and beyond. Has been a thrilling conversation.
I have a
Yes.
small question.
Please do, please
It
do.
doesn't pertain directly to Byomkesh, but we have been hearing Basudha's name so often, and Rajit is here also. And it's also a slight of a shameless plug-in also, but this is a question I wanted to ask him.
Oh yes, I've got the link.
So,
Yes.
so right now Basudha's Ek Ruka Hua Faisla, its adaptation is playing. Shotti Bole Shotti Kichu Nahi. I have always wondered, you were so close to Basudha, why weren't you there amongst those two? I really missed you.
I think that
Were you quarreling with Basudha at that
no,
point
No,
of
no,
time?
this was made much before. This was when this whole bunch of young actors, KK Rana,
And
Pankaj
especially,
Kapur,
but especially KK Raina was also there. And we've
yeah,
seen
Pankaj
Yes,
Kapur,
yes, of
the
course.
whole bunch of actors from Delhi, from NSD, from the repertory, when they all moved to Bombay, that's when Basudha made. Byomkesh came, I think, probably almost 8 years later.
So you were not there in Bombay?
I was not there. I must have been in school, I think, or maybe in college. I don't know.
But he's right now a part of 12 Angry Men on stage. You must say
So
this.
we are doing what is called 12 Angry Jurors
Yeah.
with special permission with the license from UK. Because originally in the 40s or early 50s when 12 Angry Men was written, it was all men.
Yeah.
And then I think about 17, 18 years, or I'm not sure, some group approached the licensing authority there that now with the scenario there, we would like to include women. Of course, it's very clear in terms of the permission given which characters can be played
right.
by women. So in our version, we have 5 women out of the 12 jurors, and it's 12 angry jurors, and we, for the last 8 years, we've been still performing the show to housefuls.
So that's Rajit Kapur for you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll quickly wrap up this session. We'll take 3 questions. Can we take 3? We can take 3, yeah. So can somebody just pass on the mic?
Hello, so wonderful to hear you all speak in person. So I wanted to ask that you spoke about Saradindu Babu being so visual with his words. So do you think as an actor or director somewhere it creates a little bit of a tussle in terms of taking creative liberty with the characterization, with the portrayal of the character? Because I'm saying this in terms of, say, we see modern Feluda using technology. I have not at least come across anybody daring to do that with Byomkesh. Why do you think that that sacrosanctity is so pure about Byomkesh and not really?
So I have never done Feluda using modern technology because I've always believed in period Feluda, like I've believed in period Byomkesh. Because I think a lot of the detection in both Byomkesh and Feluda franchises, they are not technology agnostic. So if you push them even by 10 years or 15 years, there could be some fingerprinting process, there could be some communication technology which might come and make the cracking of the case logically much easier, right? So which is why even when I was doing Shekhar Home, I set it in a small town where DNA results to reach from Kolkata or Hyderabad will at least take 4 or 5 days. In the meantime, KK Menon can solve the case. So that is something I always keep in mind when I structure the thing. In Byomkesh, as far as the production design and the costume designs are concerned, it is a boon to have such detailed descriptions and visuals. As far as the characterization is concerned, I think we've all taken a little bit of liberty because it's a very personal thing how one line could be said with the same impact by Gaurav or Rajit or Anirban or Abid. So I think as actors, I think they'll be in a better position to say whether that space, it kind of was existing. He didn't read before he played Byomkesh, so he had that advantage. He had the entire sky. This guy had the, kind of restriction or kind of a constraint of the written word of Saradindu. So I think, Gaurav, you can...
I think it did help me. It was very clear as to how he is in how he leads his life and how he speaks, and so that sort of helped me. And I think with literature, you have the liberty to say a dialogue in any way that you want. So that way, the actor is not restricted by those lines, because any line can be said in any way. So as an actor, I didn't feel any sort of restriction. As for what you said, there is one thing I would like to add. I think there is at least one modern day adaptation of Byomkesh, which is, I believe, called Shojarur Kanta with
Dhritiman Chattopadhyay played Byomkesh.
Dhritiman
Yes.
Chatterjee played Byomkesh.
But just to add to this, as Srijit said, some of the stories cannot work if you modernize them. The cracking of the case will not happen. So, and you look at a basic thing like usage of the telephone or coming to the cell phone, and it cannot work because they've been written, you know, so in such intricate detail, keeping into account the scenario at that time. They won't work.
Yes. Any more questions? We have a lot of questions from the young minds. Yes. Please go ahead. For how long can we extend this? I'm keep asking you. 2 more, right? Cool.
Good afternoon. This is Audipra Ghoshal from Delhi Public School, Howrah. I would like to ask Gaurav sir, which was easier to you, to record Byomkesh in Sunday Suspense or to act Byomkesh? And why?
This is a very difficult question to answer, you know, because they are different. They are so different in their own way. Because when I was playing Byomkesh on television, it was very difficult because it was the first time I was playing Byomkesh, and so many great people had played the character before me. There was a sort of little bit of a weight on my shoulders, and which I didn't know how to handle at that time. I was too young, and so that was difficult in its own way. And when I did the same thing for radio, the challenges were very different. Here, the audience can't see me, so whatever I do has to be with my voice and with the soundscape that Richard designs. So I am dependent on a lot of other things. When I'm playing Byomkesh on screen, I'm sort of independent of a few things there. So it has its own challenges. But I would say the first time was more difficult, yes.
And the last question. Who wants to ask? Yes, another young... You wanted to ask something? Yes. Let's give it to her.
First of all, of course, it's absolutely lovely to be listening to this panel and to actually listen to Rajit Kapur sharing about his experiences of Byomkesh. It's something that we've all grown up with, of course. I think my question is to Srijit. When you did Shekhar Home, that was, of course, an adaptation of Sherlock Holmes. But as Bengalis watching it, of course, it would evoke memories of Byomkesh Bokshi. It was almost like watching an amalgamation of Byomkesh into Sherlock. So how much of Byomkesh as a director was there in Shekhar?
See, again, the thing is, you cannot escape Byomkesh Bokshi. If you're making any adaptation of any detective in Bengali, some moment of truth, some moment of detection, some moment of interpersonal relationship, especially. So, you know, in Shekhar Home, when you see KK and Ranveer interact, you're bound to have a deja vu in terms of Rajit and KK Raina. Because
plus the name KK is common as well.
And the name KK is common as well. So that bonhomie, that bromance, as they say, is something which is not, it can't be escaped. And then again, you know, maybe the only point of departure would be KK's interaction with Rasika, because that's Irene, and Irene and Holmes didn't really, you know, they were not in holy matrimony, and so their love was of a different breed and a different color. But Byomkesh Satyabati's love was again of a different flavor, a different sweater. So apart from that relationship, the detection, the Bangaliana, you know.
Exactly, yeah.
See, Bangaliana is something which will inevitably, even if it's a series made in Swahili and it's an adaptation, I think Byomkesh Bokshi will come in your mind space. You cannot escape it. So definitely Shekhar Home. In fact, I discussed this with KK Menon as well. You know, KK said, "Is it becoming too much like Rajit?" I said, KK, don't worry. I mean, it is not becoming too much like Rajit, but you don't have to keep Rajit out of the thing also because he's there. He's the OG Bengali detective. So if you're playing a Bengali detective in Hindi, Rajit is there. He's there in the shoot. He's there somewhere in the script.
He's there, yes. He's just there. And taking a cue from what you said, Srijit, Rajit sir, how did you portray that Bangaliana on screen? That effortless Bengali charm. I think
this is something I've never been able to crack.
Yes,
A person who's speaking in Hindi,
Yes.
who has not read Byomkesh,
Yes.
how can he be more Bengali than Bengali?
I agree. I completely
I
agree.
don't think I really have an answer to that. But if I think back to find a rational answer, you know, I spent a lot of time here outside Kolkata when we were shooting Yugantar. And not really here in Kolkata, but in a place called Itachuna,
Yes.
outside.
Yes, Irachuna Rajbari.
So I think something, I must have absorbed, imbibed something there during those days for me to allow to reprocess it. But I don't really have a tangible answer. You know, it was something, now whether I call it created by the subconscious, I don't know whether that's the right answer too. But you paint in your mind and then you just let it flow. I don't know. I don't.
I think I have worked with him on 2 films, Mishra Rosho and Begum Jan. And whenever I'm in Bombay, we speak. And so I think I know the answer. He is what they call a born-again Bengali, you know, like Vidya Balan.
Like quote-unquote Jatishwar.
Like Jatishwar. He has all the traits of a Bengali. He's very well read. He's soft spoken. He's charming, and his eyes. And I mean, I think he is the best of Bengal. You know, the best of Bengali traits. He imbibes them. He personifies them, which is why I think he so smoothly gets into
Effortless, yes. I think the one word that comes to mind, if you want to describe him as Byomkesh Bukshi, is effortless. The effortless charm. Yes. We have time for one last question before we wrap.
Just to
Yes,
add,
yes.
it's also the imagery of, as a youngster, having watched the films of Uttam Da and Soumitra Da, you know, that imagery does help you to translate and reprocess, you know.
So let me ask you something. How did you like Uttam Kumar as Byomkesh? Since you mentioned Uttam though.
I liked it because that's my imagery, you know.
So Rajit Kapur's imagery is that of Uttam Kumar as Byomkesh. Now we know the roots of the OG Byomkesh Bukshi. That's a brilliant and beautiful answer. We have time for one last question. Yes, yes. Frantically you've been raising your hand. Yes, please go ahead.
Good afternoon. This is Agnijit Adhikari from Delhi Public School, Howrah. Gaurav sir and Rajit sir, you both have played the role of Byomkesh. So what are the major personality traits that differentiate Byomkesh from other fictional detectives like Sherlock Holmes and Feluda?
Rajit sir, would you like to? Or yes,
The first thing that comes to mind is that he's married. The other 2 are not.
There is, and the fact that
That
he's
changes everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's a dhoti kurta clad detective. Where in the world see all the other detective stories written there? Not that, okay, Sherlock Holmes was suited, booted. Yeah, we know that. But the visual imagery of what is created by the writer is so different. You have to give the credit to the writer here, you know.
And that extraordinary personality of that ordinary man. Gaurav, you want to add something else? What sets Byomkesh apart from the world detectives?
I think he's the person. Sir?
Yeah, one word, simplicity.
Lovely.
Can't add anything else to that.
And it has been lovely interacting with all of you. And a big thank you to Coal India Kolkata Literary Meet for arranging. And Saradindu Bandopadhyay has already completed 125 years. He's about to complete on 30th March. So we have done specials on Sunday Suspense in the last year as well for Saradindu 125. We'll be doing a few more as well. But a big thank you to Malabika Bandopadhyay, probably because of the surname Bandopadhyay. Malabika is very fond of Saradindu Bandopadhyay. And thank you all. You have been a lovely audience. So this is Byomkesh OG, Byomkesh 2, the director Srijit Mukherji and Puntiram signing off. Thank you.
Thank you.